Hello students, today we're going to continue chapter 6 and today we're going to finish up section 6.2, the law of cosines. So we have already done objective 1 and 2 and today we will be looking at number 3 using something called Heron's formula to find the area of triangles. So this is a formula that can find the area of a triangle if you just know the three sides of the triangle. So if you just know side lengths A, B, and C, you can use this formula right here. K stands for area, is equal to the square root of S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C. And here, A, B, and C are these three side lengths. But what is S? Well, S is actually called the semi-perimeter, and the formula for S is 1/2 of A plus B plus C. Now you'll notice A plus B plus C is the perimeter of this shape. When you take half of the perimeter, that is called the semi-perimeter. So S is called the semi-perimeter. Okay. So in order to use Heron's formula, you first need to find the semi-perimeter, plug that in for S, and then plug in side lengths A, B, and C there, and there. So let's take a look at this formula. So find the area of triangle ABC if A is 42.5 meters, B is 37.0 meters, and C is 28.5 meters. So I'm going to use, because I know three sides of a triangle, I'm going to use Heron's formula, which is K equals the square root of S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C. But in order to use this, I need to, off to the side here, figure out what S is. And to find S, I do 1/2 of A plus B plus C. So that's 1/2 of 42.5 plus 37 plus 28.5. And you get 54. So then you plug a 54 in for S, there, and there. And then you plug in side lengths A, B, and C, right there, and there. You can then type all of that into your calculator all at once. Be careful with your parentheses. And then you get your answer right there, 518.8 square meters. So that's how you use Heron's formula to find the area of a triangle. So that's the last concept in 6.2, but I did want to try to summarize kind of what we learned in 6.1 and 6.2 together. And I made a nice big table for that. Basically, here are 6 different types of triangles. So like these are examples of like different combinations of angles and sides that you could be given. And for each one of these, we're going to talk about, okay, how do you find the other missing parts of this triangle for each of these? How do you find the missing sides and angles? And then how do you find the area of this triangle? So let's start with this first one here. And we've got you can see a right angle in this triangle, which we didn't cover in this chapter. This is kind of a review of old material, but it's stuff that I still need you to remember. So if you have a right triangle, so you've got a triangle with a right angle, how do you find missing parts? Well, this, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the side length, and you can use just right triangle trigonometry, and by that I mean like SOHCAHTOA, to find missing angles. To find the area of this triangle, this is an old formula that you learned many, many years ago. To find an area of this triangle, you do 1/2 base times height, because in a right triangle, one of these legs is the base and the other one's the height. So that's just some review of some previous stuff that you still need to know and you might use sometimes. Then, for this type of triangle, this is one where you know the two sides and their included angles, side, angle, side. So when you know side, angle, side, what do you use? Well, to find missing parts, you need to start with the law of cosines. Okay, so use the law of cosines in this triangle to find side length C first, and then after that, you could then use the law of sines to find the smaller of those two remaining angles next, and then subtract from 180 to find the last angle. To find the area of this triangle, we learned a formula back in 6.1 that looked like this. Basically, it's similar to this, but you replace height with a calculation that is equal to height. So it's K equals 1/2 times A times B times the sine of angle C. So it's basically 1/2 times this side length times this side length times the sine of the included angle. Next, let's look at this type of triangle in which you know two angles in one side. That would be angle, side, angle. To solve this triangle, you start by finding the missing angle by subtracting from 180. After that, you can then, you can then use the law of sines to find either missing side length. And then use law of sines again to find the other missing side length. To find the area of one of these triangles, we actually did not have a formula for this kind. Basically what you need to do is find the missing parts and then go back and use maybe this, this formula right here. Or if you find all the side lengths, you could use Heron's formula. But basically, given these three, we don't have a formula for area. This triangle is actually very similar to this one. The only difference is the side length we know isn't in between the two angles we know, so this would be an angle-angle side or a side angle-angle triangle. But basically, the strategy is going to be the exact same as the previous one. You subtract these two angles from 180 to find the third angle, and then you can use the law of sines to find the two remaining side lengths. And again, there is no, there is no area formula when you know just these three measurements. Basically, you'd have to find all missing parts and then use one of the other formulas. So basically, these two, similar approaches, and that's when you know two angles of a triangle and one side length. This type of triangle is when you know a side, another side, and then an angle that is not in between those. That's that's an SSA triangle. And for that kind, you need to remember this is a very special case, and you have to be very careful for these triangles. Basically, we're going to use the law of sines. However, when you solve for that missing angle there, when you solve for this missing angle here, you have to remember that there could be 0, 1, or 2 solutions. And again, there is no formula for when you have these three measurements to find the area. And then the last type of triangle we looked at is a side-side-side triangle. And for that one, you use the law, oh goodness, oh, things are happening. You use the law of cosines, there we go. Use the law of cosines to start by finding a missing angle, and then once you have one of the missing angles, you can use the law of sines to find another missing angle, and then you can subtract one from 180 to find the third missing angle. And then we did just learn a new formula for the area of one of these triangles. It's Heron's formula. And you can see here, there's their formula for area, and there's the definition of the semi-perimeter. So here is, all that stuff all together. Make sure you memorize these formulas, memorize the law of sines and the law of cosines, memorize these two new area formulas. And that's kind of a big summary of everything that we covered so far in Chapter 6.